And joining us now from the Loyola University Maryland Selinger School of Business and Management is Michael Runnels, Associate Professor of Law and Social Responsibility. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You have a longstanding interest in China. Give me your thoughts on U.S. trade policy with respect to China.
U.S. trade policy for the past several decades, instituting with President Nixon's opening up of China, was effectively to try to bring China into the liberal order that was firmly established by the U.S. at the end of World War II. When I discuss liberal order, I mean the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF, World Bank, WTO. So the purpose was to fold China into a regulatory framework designed by the Americans, underwritten by Western governments writ large, so that when the Chinese begin to develop with a population with amazing natural resources, with an excellent geostrategic location, that they would not become a geopolitical and economic competitor to the U.S. And this was, right, the thrust of U.S. foreign policy, right, to tether the Chinese so closely to us that if we instigate a trade war with them, it is us instigating a trade war with ourselves.
Now, interestingly, you were telling me in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the deal that was negotiated under the Obama administration and became really unpopular with both parties during the last campaign, China wasn't involved in that.
No, they weren't involved in that at all. They were critical of the negotiations throughout. They were, in particular, not invited. In particular, the Vietnamese are the ones who invited the U.S. to engage in the TPP because the Vietnamese were and have becoming increasingly alarmed by the largesse of the Chinese military, and certainly how China is expressing itself and flouting international law in the South China Sea and their militarizing of the area. So this is multifaceted. It is economic, it is military, and so the Chinese are very skeptical of the TPP. They discussed it in public. When I say in public, the mouthpiece of the Chinese government's CC television, they discussed it as a tool of U.S. foreign policy to constrain China's rise.
Who has more to lose if there's a trade war? I mean, one thought is that Walmart won't have anything to sell. And maybe, you know, it would be as bad as we have a recession because of that. But that China is at far greater risk because they could have a revolution. If the wheels of commerce stop turning there's so much debt, so much has been built up so quickly. Do they have a lot to lose?
I think that the Americans have more to lose in our revanchist economic policy that appears to be developing out of the new administration. Anyone who knows much about Chinese history and knows much about their new president, Xi Jinping, will understand that it will take quite a colossal financial collapse for anyone to begin the notion of discussing political meetings, having a march even. So I don't see that if China was to economically implode, it would be located only in China. China is so tethered to the economic system that whatever happens in their country is going to reverberate here. So when it comes to looking at China as a competitor economically, we are so tethered to one another that we cannot really discuss this in terms of hostility.
How do you think about, from a global perspective, what's been happening in the pendulum swinging from free trade to protectionism and Brexit? Where do we stand? Where is it headed?
That's a fascinating question. It occurs to me that before World War I, there was a financial collapse, a rise of nationalism, and then the war. Before World War II, you had a financial collapse, the rise of nationalism, and you had the Second World War. We're in a period now where we had a massive financial collapse. You're seeing, again, the growth of nationalism. You're seeing in a revanchist Soviet Union That's not a Freudian slip. I mean, this is an individual, Vladimir Putin, who is trying to reconstitute the Soviet Union and is doing so, which is a revanchist policy. Policy in terms of China, in terms of its emerging on the world stage as a world empire. This rise of nationalism is part of a piece, and is a part of a piece of the story of trade. I mean, the entire deal with the global economic system is that, look, I will forego particular forms of violence in order to trade goods and services with you. But if you break that deal, what need do we have to discuss all of this fine set that we can enjoy right now, what we call civil society? So essentially, that deal, through the economic collapse of 2008, was broken. And when Americans saw that our tax dollars were used to bail out corporations, when people over the world saw that corporations were effectively being bailed out and there were no consequences for them, but there are consequences for the people, why should you support contemporary political leaders? Because they have all betrayed you. So I see this as part of a piece. Globalization, trade as such, is a salve for violence. That deal has been broken. And so when you're seeing the rise of nationalism, it should be troublesome to students of history and students of global economics.
What would you want American workers to know about these very complex arguments when they see the factories closing down and associate it with the imported products that they're seeing? How do you think they should think about it?
Those low prices that you see in Walmart are directly subsidized by cheap Chinese labor. If President Trump is able to instigate a trade war with the Chinese, the only thing that is going to mean to individuals in the Rust Belt, in Appalachia, is those low prices are going to become a bit higher, and that's less money out of their pocket. So, yes, it's complicated. You're not going to explain global economics to an individual who doesn't have a home, right? An individual who's underwater in their mortgage. They want a job. They want a clear message. The message is that we're in a global system. We're all connected. Unfortunately, it is a zero-sum game. And if we fight the Chinese in this fashion, the only thing that's going to happen is that individuals who live paycheck to paycheck are going to be using more of that paycheck to pay for whatever Walmart is able to provide for them.
Interesting. Michael Runnels joining us from the Sellinger School. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And that is our program for this week. Tune in every Thursday at this time for Your Money and Business. Remember, you can see full episodes of our local MPT programs by visiting video.mpt.tv. Streaming videos are available there 24 hours a day. We're back tomorrow at this time with State Circle and the latest on Maryland politics. For all of us at MPT, thanks for watching and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.